Welcome to Dixie Travels. Get ready for an incredible adventure as we unravel the captivating story of the Canada-U.S. border. From untamed wilderness to disputed islands, join us as we explore the quirkiest border in the world. Don't miss out on this unforgettable journey. Hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more exciting travel stories. Let's dive in. Welcome to the fascinating tale of the border between Canada and the United States, which happens to be the longest and straightest border in the world. Now you might think that such a long and straight border could be a bit boring, but hold on tight, because there's a lot more to it than meets the eye. These two sister nations, while generally getting along well, are determined to establish a clear distinction between their sides of the continent, and they've come up with a rather peculiar solution: a 20-foot wide space that stretches for a whopping 5,500 miles along the border. Except for a few historic New England towns or the occasional airport expansion, this space is a no-touching zone between the countries, and they take it incredibly seriously. It doesn't matter if this non-touching zone cuts through vast stretches of untamed Alaskan or Yukon wilderness. Those border trees simply won't be allowed to stand. Now you might be tempted to believe that this must be the longest, straightest, deforested area on the planet, but hold your horses. Yes, it's deforested, but straight? Not at all. Sure, it may appear straight on a map, and the treaties establishing the line claim it's straight, but let me tell you a little secret. In the real world, the official border consists of 900 zigzagging lines that deviate from the horizontal by several hundred feet in some places. How did this happen, you ask? Well, imagine yourself back in the 1800s in North America. The 49th parallel had just been determined as the national boundary, and guess whose job it was to make it a reality? Yours. Armed with only a compass and a ball of string, you were tasked with meticulously marking off 2/3 of a continent. And mind you, there were uncharted wildernesses in the way. All you had to do was keep the lines piece of cake, right? Yeah, good luck with that. The brave surveyors of that time did their best, erecting over 900 monuments to mark the border. Granted, they are as straight as one could expect from pre-GPS civilization, but they aren't the kind of perfectly straight lines that would make mathematicians jump for joy. Nevertheless, these monuments define the border, and the no-touching zone plays a game of connect the dots with them. Now get this, while we're talking about approximately 900 markers along this particular section of the border, there are a whopping 8,000 markers in total that shape the boundaries of these nations. Can you believe it? But here's the kicker. Despite this colossal project, Canada and the United States still have some disputed territory. There's a string of islands in the Atlantic that the United States claims as part of Maine, while Canada insists they belong to New Brunswick. And how do they handle this disagreement? Canada went ahead and built a lighthouse on one of the islands, claiming it as their own, while the United States simply pretends the lighthouse doesn't exist, believing the islands are rightfully theirs. It's not a major problem, mostly a squabble over tourists who want to see puffins and fishermen who want to catch lobster. However, let's hope they resolve this dispute before someone discovers oil under that lighthouse. That could really heat things up. But even in the non-disputed territory, there are some peculiar spots worth mentioning. This tick of the border that juts upwards into Canada. Zoom in closer, and it gets even stranger, because the border doesn't run over solid land. It cuts through a lake, slicing off a piece of Canada before diving back down into the US and resuming its westward trajectory across the rest of the continent. It's quite a sight to behold. This particular spot is home to around 100 Americans, and it perfectly exemplifies how border irregularities come to be. Let's travel back in time to 1783, when victorious Americans were negotiating with the British, who controlled the territory that would one day become Canada. Picture this. They needed a map, and the best available at the time had a bit of a flaw. As you move westward, the details become sparser and sparser. Now imagine negotiating the border between what would later become Minnesota and Manitoba with a hidden area on the map. They were basically bordering blind, folks. Nevertheless, they made an educated guess that the border should start from the northwestern part of a certain lake and run horizontally until it intersected the mighty Mississippi River somewhere. But that somewhere turned out to be nowhere, because the Mississippi River fell short of that line. This left the border rather vague until 35 years later, when a second round of negotiations established the aforementioned 49th parallel. However, a new problem emerged. That previously mentioned lake turned out to be higher and less circular than initially thought. placing its northwesterly point in an unexpected location. So the existing border had to make a jump upwards to meet it, and then drop straight down to the 49th parallel, awkwardly cutting off a small portion of Canada. Sometimes, drawing a seemingly straight line for hundreds of miles leads to unexpected complications. But wait, there's more. On the west coast, we encounter Vancouver Island, which posed a dilemma for the border. The 49th parallel would have sliced right through it, but both sides agreed that such an arrangement would be utterly absurd. So the border takes a graceful swoop around the island, preserving its unity. However, right next door to Vancouver Island lies Point Roberts, which went unnoticed during the border negotiations. As a result, the border now casually crosses through this delightful town, home to over 1,000 Americans. Imagine this, the only land route to Point Roberts is a bridge that connects it to the United States. So every day, the older kids from this town have to traverse international borders 4 times just to attend school in their own state. Talk about a unique educational experience. And guess what? This situation isn't limited to just these examples. There are several more places where each country contains a small piece of the other. You can easily spot them in satellite photos thanks to the distinctive no-touching zone. So whether it's an uninhabited strip of land or a section that runs through the middle of a lake, the Canada-U.S. border is filled with quirks and surprises at every turn. It's a testament to the historical complexities, negotiations, and occasional guesswork that have shaped this remarkable boundary. Remember, when it comes to the Canada-U.S. border, there's much more than meets the eye, from zigzagging lines and disputed islands to unique towns and peculiar border irregularities. It's a border that truly captivates the imagination. And that concludes our captivating journey through the extraordinary Canada-U.S. border. We hope you enjoyed this adventure and gained a deeper appreciation for the unique quirks that shape our world. If you want more fascinating travel stories and breathtaking destinations, remember to stay tuned and subscribe to 𝗂𝘂𝗀𝗃𝗲 Travels.